Anybody who's ever been to a Jewish wedding or seen a Jewish wedding on TV or in a movie knows that there's that moment right at the very end after the rabbi says that the two people may kiss, where the groom steps on the glass and everyone stands up sort of as one whole collective community. It says L'chaim, Mazal Tov, and the people who have just gotten married walk back down the aisle. It's a profound moment. It's a moment of happiness, an explosion of joy at the end of what could sometimes be a fairly lengthy ceremony. This is a sort of ritual that has a number of different reasons behind it. There's the commemoration of the destruction of the temple. There's the commemoration of other traumatic events that have happened to the Jewish people, including the Holocaust and Kristallnacht. There's also the idea that once something is broken, it can't ever be put back together in a way that is exactly the same. I want us to hold this idea in our heads as we start thinking this week about the Torah portion. Last year, my family and I moved into a new house. My son was starting kindergarten, and we wanted to be nearer to the elementary school. Among the hundreds of tasks, large and small, that we had to contend with was, of course, putting up mezuzot in our house. We sort of, over the years, assembled a collection of mezuzot, but one stands out as having a particularly deep meaning, and that is the one that contains the shards of glass shattered by me at the end of our wedding, however many years ago. Yes, it's a beautiful mezuzah, but of course there's that deeper meaning as well. The tradition would have, in fact, been upheld if we had discarded that glass after the wedding. That's fairly common. But, having this affixed to a door is a visual, sort of a tactile reminder of what the glass represents. These shards of glass that really, on their own, have no inherent meaning. I want to bring up this concept that these small pieces still contain meaning, because this week's Parashat Pekudei, contains a very similar idea. We've read for weeks now of this lengthy construction process of the tabernacle. But finally, after Moses' long accounting of all of the different pieces of silver and all of the materials that went into the building of the Mishkan, it is ready for the presence of Adonai to descend upon it. Now, the Torah is very clear here that one of the things that happens in the construction of the Mishkan just before the presence is ready is that Moses puts the tablets inside. The Talmud expands on this, saying that it is not only the intact tablets from Moses' second trip up the mountain, but rather it also includes the broken pieces from when Moses, so angered by the sight of the golden calf, threw the original tablets down, breaking them into countless pieces. So the question is this: why did Adonai insist on their inclusion in the tabernacle? There's, as you might suspect, any number of rabbinic sources that have tried to come up with some explanation. And my view is that the utility, the importance of these shattered fragments is not in their practical usefulness. There's already a second complete set of tablets. The shards are not necessary for the Israelites to understand the word of Adonai, but rather as items touched by the hand of Adonai. They hold significant spiritual value, and this value is something that should be remembered, should be considered, and should not simply be discarded just because they are no longer legible. One example of something that's perhaps more prosaic is that all of us in our lives tend to collect items or places that we once considered important. We move on in our lives, giving new items and new places importance by their presence in our own sort of day-to-day existences. And then, one day, perhaps by chance, we come across something that had slipped to the back of our minds. Maybe we drove by an old apartment. We took a different way home and we saw where we used to live. Or maybe we were cleaning out our garage and we discovered a notebook from high school. These don't have any practical use to us any longer. But upon rediscovery, the emotions and the feeling and the spiritual necessity of these sort of items comes back. It floods through our minds, reminding us of their initial importance in our lives. And so thus it was for Moses and Aaron, and of course Adonai with the broken pieces. Even now, illegible, and having been replaced, in fact, these pieces of the original tablets maintains their importance. Obsolescence is not the same as insignificance, whether we're talking about the pieces of the tablets or we're talking about the notes that we took in high school. Shabbat Shalom.